is in California, it itself could provide 40% of the world's lithium needs. And I was shocked by that study with geothermal water and lithium being so abundant in it.
I did not know that.
Let's bottle it.
Yeah.
Liquid lithium.
We could be rich.
It'll be the Saudi Arabia of lithium.
Makes the lead in water seem simple, doesn't it? When you start talking about lithium, that's like a whole other realm.
It is, yeah. Hey, Megan, how are you? Good to see you.
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good.
I know it's been a while, huh?
Yeah.
It has.
Yeah.
It has.
Waiting for Art to get back, and we're waiting for Jim Clark. Jason, how are you? Megan, how are you? Your screen says Jason. That's why I was messing with you.
Oh,
You're fine. We know who you are.
right here. I'll change that. My husband has the paid Zoom, so for his work, so I always just log in on his.
All right, we're just waiting on Jim Clark. As soon as he comes on, we'll get started with our work session. Okay. For some reason, my cursor. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. For some reason, my cursor is not working. Well, let's go ahead and get started so we can be ready for our regular meeting at 7. It's February 8th, 2004. This is a work session with City of Idaho Springs. Our first topic is Wall Street one-way proposal with public input. As you know, Council, several weeks ago, this came to us and we heard it, and what we wanted to do flyers out to Wall Street and the residents that live there and get some feedback from them. In our packets, we had some of the feedback from some of those residents up there. And also, I believe that John Kane's going to share with us some Facebook posts that also. John, do you have?
Yes, sir. I'm working on pulling those up right now. Give them 2 seconds. I'll have them here.
For discussion with council, everybody read through the comments. Do you have anything, or Chief, as you saw the comments also, that you, being our public safety officer, do you have any input for this?
No, Mayor, just I did cut and paste a number of the comments I received that I emailed directly to Wall Street, the Wall Street neighborhood. So we got a number of responses. Also,
Hello.
that flyer we made, we delivered door to door.
Yes, that is correct. Thanks for that, Chief. So these are, are these, oh, so these are Facebook comments. Okay. I thought
Yeah.
there were additional.
No.
Okay, some additional. So we've got all these in our packet. All right, council. You know, a couple of thoughts of mine. We see that there's been a couple of people that suggest that we ought to kind of, depending on time of the year it is, we could switch the direction and switch how we part due to inclement weather. I, for one, would say to change it up like that, one, we would have to come back in before we changed it and redo our plan for the city. We'd have to come in and change it. And or relying on a certain time of year that it switches back the other way. I just don't think that's safe for anybody. Last thing I'd like to want to see is two people going at it on June 1st, and the day's June 1st to switch, and they pull in head to head against each other. It turns into a conflict. And I'm just being silly here, but you know, I just don't think that it would be appropriate or proper for us to you know, change this depending upon the time of season it is. Any other thoughts, council?
Well, I agree with that. One thing first of all, I was appreciative of the input we got from a number of residents. It's nice to see them participating in this discussion. One thing I got out of it is a lot of them are for local traffic only, and I think that's something something we should consider. I think that's something we should consider in several streets throughout our city, but right now just Wall Street. I think that's an excellent idea. We'll cut down on traffic. I know when the traffic comes eastbound and people can't get through because on I-70 they go all over the place, and so I think that would be one thing we should consider as a council is making it for local residents and deliveries only.
And Art, if I could pile on, I mean, that is a great suggestion. I think there was another good suggestion, trying to discourage RVs with some kind of signage. There were actually several folks who wrote in about the RV situation. And of course, we complement that with the signage about locals. And for what good it will do, it wouldn't hurt to change the speed to 10 miles an hour. And I just think those are things that we can do, you know, as kind of no-brainer type things that would have to only improve. And I will tell you that I am inclined, my input here, and full disclosure, I have property on Virginia Street, and I also have property on Wall Street in these exact blocks that we're talking about. And personally, I think that we should leave it alone at least until the street is improved. I mean, other than the signage that we're talking about, we can implement that at little cost, and it would certainly help with the situation. But one thing I think that's not in the report, I just want everybody to appreciate, we have very little turnover there. It's really a pretty tight-knit group of neighbors, and it's been like this for many decades. And it is something that I think the neighborhood, being one of very minimal turnover, is very educated at handling. And I've been in my house 22 years, and I don't ever remember it being an issue, but I think we could implement a 10-mile-an-hour and some local signage, RV type discouragement to make it even better.
All right, thanks for those comments, Chuck. Very good. It's nice to know that we have somebody on council that actually has a piece of property that can, you know, that deals with this on a day-to-day basis. Other council members?
Yeah, what I'm getting out of this, it's a pretty complex matter. I think, like Chuck and Art are saying, there's some things we can do right now, but I'm kind of apt to leaving it alone until, it seems like there's a whole wide variety of things that the locals have ideas of, and I don't think we can satisfy all the needs of the people that live up there. So maybe, I don't know, if further studying, getting the street fixed would be a big thing right now.
Yeah, it
I think
would.
that'd be a big plus. And then I don't know how to solve what would be the best solution up there, but it seems like a real complex matter, and there's a wide variety of what people want to do.
I think once you get those signs up and you get the other traffic out there, and just the neighbors, they seem to be, like you said, a good group of people, and they participate and talk to each other, and they seem to be very kind to each other when, people are coming towards them, they back up and whatever. So, I mean, it's a community that communicates. And I think just getting the extra traffic out there would be a big help.
I agree with that. Actually, pretty much everything's been said so far. I thought the input was great from the residents. Chuck's, the suggestions in general, and especially what Chuck said, I don't see any saying they're not having property there, but really no negatives from the speed limit, the no large vehicles, and local traffic only. Those are things that can be installed, improving safety and all of that with essentially no cost. And if we do start one way, then we're going to have, again, there's no perfect answer on that. We're going to create other problems. So I think what we're talking about signage to me appeals to me because it's a little bit like having our cake and eating it too. Not quite, but it's on that direction. And I don't know, I'm curious what Chris thinks about that.
I'll be honest with you. My greatest concern is that if we at any time allow traffic to go solely eastbound, people are still going to have to park on the north curb line, which means they're going to have to park farther away from the wall to get into their homes. So that narrows the street. So that's my chief concern. Is that, if we make it one way, it should be westbound. It should be westbound.
Okay. And council, as you read through the packet, we also had folks wondering when we were going to fix this street. As of right now, and I can tell you that when we went through the process with our bond money and rating streets and determining and going through and really picking the ones that we were going to do, I think we did a very good job. I know that Wall Street and parts of Wall Street were on a high list. A couple of things that we as council, before we voted on which streets we were going to do, is we took it into consideration. One, where that project was, that could have eaten up over half of our budget because of the location of it. And then we also had to really look at the amount of traffic that's on that road, and that's when we took another, I don't know what, Kate Collier could tell us, but I think it was like a D- or something. But we had other D- projects that really, when we sat down and thought about it, said this is one of our more higher traffic areas, and it makes more sense for us to do this road. And the cost is much, much less, because of, tying in the new water lines and sewer lines from Wall Street. I don't know where they are. John Bordoni does. And when we talked about this, John Bordoni was about screaming because he knew how much money it would cost and how difficult that project was going to be. And then, so I still firmly believe that in the future, the way that we set up our bond was once we paid down some, that we could rebond and fix more streets. And that was how we were advised to set up our bond program. So I see that, several years from now, that we're going to have another pot of money that we're going to be able to fix streets with in this community. Let's see, Jim, you got any comments? Where did Jim? Oh, there he is. Jim?
Sorry, I was on mute. Sorry.
Have you had to save a vehicle off that road?
Yeah, yeah, plenty, for sure. I didn't know if the concern was the RV parking on those streets. I was reading some of the comments due to the increase of sales for RVs and stuff. Yeah, that certainly is a crazy market of people buying those things. But obviously people are, I think, going to get trapped in this town with oversized vehicles, no matter what's like the semis down there at down the trailer park by the football field or the old, Digger Stadium down in there. It's, we get them out of there too often. I think some signs would probably be best for, no oversizes or no trailers, locals only, something like that would maybe detour some of that stuff. But I don't know, man, that crazy stuff we see day in and day out, especially our little awesome mountain town right off that crazy highway. You think you got your bases covered, then tomorrow brings a whole new day of stupid. So you just don't know. We can try.
Thanks, Jim. John Curtis, you got anything to add that we haven't heard?
No, I agree with the signage. I agree with no oversized vehicles. I don't know if you want to put a weight limit on it, but then you got issues with trash companies. So, no, we keep it just local and low speeds and go along. Chris has got some good ideas.
Okay. Well, the consensus of council that I'm hearing is to get some good signage over there, leave it, the traffic pattern the way it is and the parking the way it is. And let's see, over the next several months, if this helps some of those concerns from the residents up there of oversized vehicles and trailers and all that good stuff going out there and causing some problems.
Yeah,
right.
I'm sorry, Mike. Yeah, I would just like to be clear that the Chris's thoughts about if we do go one way, and I think we need to reconsider this after the signage is in place, maybe through the summer or something, that the westbound one way really does need to be looked at. And I think it's something that we probably need to put in the tickler file to revisit. And we'll probably be hearing from residents up there anyway, I'm sure. But I didn't want to sound like it was dismissing Chris's thoughts on that.
Well, here's another thought though, too. I know they said they've had difficulty. Some people have had difficulty getting up the hill. My 5 years here, no one's ever gotten stuck on the hill. And the road may not be suitable for 2-wheel drive vehicles when there's ice, but also we have a responsibility, just like we do on Soda Creek, to ensure that road is well sanded, so we don't have that problem. So if it's all possible, we need to ensure that and the guys do a great job. I mean, they have to contend with 13th Street and all these other streets on the north side of Colorado. So I'm not sure, John, you'd know better, but is that an area that would be best handled by a narrow blade or the Kubota? Because I can't imagine you getting your big trucks up there.
No, we get the plows up there easily enough. I mean, that road basically most of the time is a dirt road.
Mm-hmm.
We sand that fairly well all the time. And we try and make as many passes as we can on all the streets. But like I said before, typically I only have 2 people out plowing at a time. So we have the whole city to contend with.
Mm-hmm.
That's Montaigne from east to west and Pine Slope everywhere. So yeah, we try and get to them as much as we can. If it's snowing a lot, it may be a little bit of time between sandings, but we do get to it.
Yeah. I mean, I think if somebody did an audit of that street right now with all the vehicles parked, they would find predominantly that the vehicles are either front wheel drive or all wheel drive. And we can't police the quality of people's tires. But I can tell you this, I mean, we've never been called up to Wall Street to get a vehicle unstuck. Jim, have you gotten any calls up there?
Yeah, it's been a long time. People are pretty diligent about,
Mhm.
you know, they know where they live. They know,
Yep.
they know what they're in.
Yep.
So they're good.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, John, you know how much you like signs. I don't know if you've got any of these laying around. We'll probably have to get them made.
No, I'll have to get them made, and just tell me where you want to place them and what you want the signs to say, so we don't have to keep replacing them.
I'll come out, Andy and I, and we'll come out, and if anybody else wants to join us to take a look at it, it's going to be pretty simple. I think we just need to come up with the verbiage, and that shouldn't be very difficult either. About the 10 mile an hour, changing it to 10 miles an hour, should we go ahead and do that? I think there was a suggestion to do 5 miles an hour. Is that, does anybody recall that? Is that what it was?
There were, we got requests late last year to make it 5 miles an hour, and the consensus was that it would be 10 miles an hour. The residents that made the request were okay with being 10 miles an hour.
Okay. We will get signage for that, make that happen too. All right, let's move to our next topic tonight on our work session. This is water and sewer rate increases for 2021. As you know, we took a vote first reading, and I promised that we would come back and discuss and kind of clarify why this increase is important to the city. Of course, we got our packet, and in 2021, we were supposed to go up 9% and 8%. And, you know, knowing what everybody's going through, we said, let's just do 5% across the board. And that'll give some folks a little bit of a release and not the, not such a big jump. And the other thing that we have in our packet is a little slideshow, if you will. And this lays out what we did our study before we went and got our loans for the sewer plant upgrades. You know, this was a financial document that came in that told the city, you know, when you borrow this money, this is what your rates are going to have to be and the increases that you're going to have to do to keep up with the debt service. You know, of course, the only thing that we can pay for the water and sewer plant operations, improvements is through our water and sewer rates. That's, you know, water taps, anything that has to do with distribution and collection of our water systems. This is something that, you know, we struggled with, and even previous councils struggled with, of having to do these types of increases. Where we know that there's people struggling, but we also really have to look at, you know, that we have to continue to pay our debt service. We don't want to default on our debt service because that's not good either. This 5%, I think is very minimal. I don't think it's going to impact too many really residents too much. It'll impact more for the businesses because businesses use, you know, much more water. And what we would like to do, it's been a few years, and what I would suggest to council and think it would be a great idea is to go ahead and let's get another rate study going. Let's relook at this and revisit it. Like I mentioned earlier, we're going to have about 50 new users come online. And does that move that needle that maybe next time either we, you know, do a much less increase than we propose, or maybe not one at all. So I'm just going to throw that out there for council. If you agree, and I think we should go ahead and get another rate study going, and your position on, you know, we're going to have this on second reading tonight, and any other questions or concerns or thoughts. I'm opening it up to the floor.
I think a rate study is a great idea. A new one.
Okay, John, Curtis?
Yeah, a new study. Part of the reason we had to make up was so many years city council did not raise the rates. So we're actually catching up for those years.
Yeah.
Yeah, they put us behind.
I
Jeff?
Councilman Curtis, I couldn't agree with you more. But there again, that's not the fault of the citizens of this town. And it's not our fault. It's not our that's the previous administration's choices made. That's so unfortunately, yes, we're stuck with the decisions they made on us. But we need to think over and above. Yeah, 5% for water and 5% for wastewater, which is 10. Probably won't affect any member of us talking about this evening. But and yeah, it is down from the 17% we talked about earlier on. So this is, I think, it's a tough spot that we're all in as the positions we're in. This isn't about us and the 10% that it's going to cost us, because that 10% doesn't affect me. And, Mayor Pro Tem Bowen, it doesn't affect him and Chuck and all of us guys. But who it does affect is the single mom who needs that gallon of milk or two for her children, that she can't afford this. So, and I'm not saying we can't. I understand paying debts. We all do, guys. Every one of us own a business up here, man. We all know how it works. And I don't think the residents of this town should be punished for the shortfalls of a previous administration. I agree 100% that, yeah, we haven't had the increases but everybody says, well, yeah, but we had to have a new wastewater facility. I agree. But there's nothing in the law that says we had to spend $10 million and then make it the responsibility of the increases of our residents.
So just to comment on that, Jim.
Yes, sir.
Yes, we were told that you had to do this, or we could get fines daily for not doing what the state ordered us to do. Because I'll tell you this, Jim, if we didn't have to increase our capacity because of our discharge, we wouldn't even have this conversation. This would have never been happening, and these increases would have happened. It's just, it's fortunate but unfortunate. We're a small community, and we have to share the costs of these things. The cost of the infrastructure. We were, when I came on, we were real fortunate to get $22 million to do Colorado Boulevard. The infrastructure in this community, when I came on, when I looked at it, I was appalled that previous administrations would have allowed it to get this way. And, it was just, that's not what the council and city leadership, all of us, we got to take care of our city. That's what we're voted in to do, is to make correct and take care of our city. And that's what we had to do.
100%.
And Jim, I guarantee you, everyone on here and on council, think about the single mom that has a couple of kids and is struggling to get by. All this, we all have hearts. We all think about that. It's hard for us to do.
I guess my question in reality is that it's easy for us to say, well, we can pass it on or whatever, as us as business people and whatever. And yeah, you're told, everybody's right. That's for sure. But what would a $6 million facility have gotten us? And forgive me for not being on the council then or now. It's a simple fact of, if we can't afford it, then why did we do that? And know that we're gonna need, 50+% over the next however many years, whatever the numbers are, to make up debt services. So in business, and all of us know this, if we can't afford it, we don't buy it. So I guess that's my question. And I feel like that's probably everybody's question is, and like I said, I'm trying to speak on behalf of others, is that when they look at that water bill and they say, what is this for? And they say, yeah, but we didn't ask for this, or yeah. And they don't know the backstory of like we do, but
Well, I would say that information should be council members getting out there when they ask that every council member should have the information. We had to, it was state mandated, and I can give you the letter from the state that says, Idaho Springs, you're over capacity X amount of times a year. When you're at 80% capacity, you need to be in design. When you're at 90% capacity, you need to be in construction. So we were at 90 and 105.
Sure.
This is
and that's all CRS law, black and white. I understand 100%, sir. But when they ask me, well, whose voice was it to spend X? Because there's nothing in the CRS right under that one when we're at X capacity that says, and you must spend $10 million.
That's what costs to build, Jim.
I understand that, but what could we have gotten for 6 or 7? These are the questions I'm getting asked. You're telling me I, as a council member, need to follow. I need to answer these questions. So how do I answer that?
Well, let somebody go out and price out. We'll give them all the specs, and you can go out and price what it would cost to build that plant. Yeah, we just said, okay, oh, $10 million, we're not going to shop around. No, this is
when I wanted a rotator at 1.5 million, I couldn't afford that. So I bought a wrecker that was $500,000. That's all I'm saying.
500, the $6 million net plant would not suffice the state. For $6 million, we could not have done and upgraded what the state mandated us to do.
The state mandate, right, Mike? The state mandated a certain spec, and the spec, we had competitive bids. Didn't we have competitive bids?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we did value to
All right. That was prior to where I'm at now. That's the answer I needed to know. So if it was, we didn't have a choice but to, because of, then I'm fine with that. But I've never, ever one time got that answer with a dollar amount attached to what we currently own. So that statement right there, I'm more than happy with. That is a valid fact statement. And if that's more, well, that because we had to, no, that's the money we had to spend to get to what we had to, and for the state to be compliant, then I'm fine with that.
Okay. And that is true and correct. That's
okay.
That was exactly the case. Mandated, put it just like we're supposed to. We procured the project. We put it out for bid. We got bids in on it. We vetted those bids. We vetted the companies. We took the lowest bid and we went with the plan.
Like, if I may, it seems to me that our timing was actually very good on that, because we had dozens of days where we had exceeded 90%, and there were even a few days we exceeded 100%. And I think we got about $2.5 million worth of grant money to lessen the blow, if I remember right. And I do also believe that we got some ultra low interest on the bond money. Now, you know, had we had to take on a project like that in an era of 8, 9, 10% interest, you know, it would be completely undoable. But we just got lucky with the timing. That's the way I recollect it.
Another thing I'd like to note is that I know that business rates are higher, and that's putting less burden on the residents and putting it on the tourism on our town, I think, because that gets passed forward the prices they have to pay at restaurants or whatever business. But another thing about timing is I've been in this town when there's been empty storefronts downtown and the economy's not in good shape. We're have a pretty decent economy. If this were to happen when the economy was slow, our burden would be much greater on the citizens of Idaho Springs. And another thing, I'd like to get some statistical, I know that it's been talked about, but I don't know that Idaho Springs rates are sky high above other municipalities. I think we're kind of middle of the road or maybe a little above average, but.
God, I'd like to make a comment on that. Minturn, Colorado is another small town right next to Vail. The water bill is $179 per month, and that's for only 6,000 gallons. St. Mary's, of course, in our backyard is $190 every single month, not by month.
Yeah, there's numerous small towns that are hurting, because the state and the feds tell us what we have to do, and we don't have a choice. We're
John,
not like Denver that has 2 million people that can chip in to do this. We just have a small population.
John, that's exactly where I was going. I was just picking on a couple small communities with high bills because, like you're alluding to, they don't have a lot of addresses to split the cost of that infrastructure with.
Yeah, Art?
That's all said and good. You can start giving statistical data to the average guy on the street who's trying to earn a living, who maybe didn't get his unemployment check, who's on a fixed income. They don't have the capacity to absorb that. So if what you're saying is correct, and I believe it is, I'd like to see some of these things that have come down from the state so we can implement a good conversation of intelligence with people and show them the facts. What concerns me is you're talking about a 64% increase from 2019 to 2024, as it is on the sheet, less than 4% and the 3% respectively for 2020. I would like also to get a guarantee that we're not going to take that 4% of the difference between the 9 and the 5 and 8%, the difference between the 8 and the 5, the 3%, and add it on to 2021, just push it down the kick the can down the road like the Fed does. I think we need to have some it's not easy for us to discuss this thing. But I personally would like to see it. People are visions. They like to see vision things. They don't want to see conceptual. I like to see some statistical fact about what we're just saying. So we have the ability to give it to the residents and let them read it and then come back at us. But, like Jimmy said earlier, we're asking the residents to pay for mismanagement prior to when we got on the board, and many of you have gotten on the board. And that's a hard thing to clarify to people. And I think it's important that if we're going to do this, we do it so the residents understand what we're doing. May not like it, but understand what we're doing. I still think it's a high rate. I think it's 64% is ridiculous to me, and 39% on the sewer over those 6 years. That's a big percent, no matter how you cut it. And if the state was so demanding, and we're having a hard time raising our rates and maybe possibly meeting our debt, then maybe the state should be participating in our problem with us.
And Chuck, if I may, Chuck, for the smaller towns, around the state and stuff that all adhere to the same CRS rules that we do in Idaho Springs. Let's take Springfield, Colorado, for example, small community. Their 2,000 gallons of water is $7.50, and it's $1.50 for 1,000 gallons thereafter. So, are we high, quote unquote, for a small town?
Well, you got to look at, they're probably wells, and wells is a lot more cheaper than surface water to treat. So their costs and infrastructure is as high as ours.
Well, sure, but either way, it has to be treated one, or it's either wastewatered.
I don't know anything about this community, Jim. Do they have a Tommyknockers and a Bojo's and a
They
West?
have a little diner. I've eaten that many times. I
you've
like
been there?
Springfield.
You've
Who
been-
knows either way, but just saying that, you know, in a, I don't know if it's a comparative or not, but who knows?
So, and another thing that I want to throw out there is the state did help us. We got $2 million from the state and money for planning. So the project didn't really cost this community 10 million. It really, the projects, and correct me if I'm wrong, Andy, the total project was 10 million, but 2 million plus another $500,000 was DOLA money that we got grants to make it happen. So we did a great job. Could you imagine if we didn't get those grants? Then we would be facing a $10 million debt that we were having to pay, and those water bills would have gone up even more. So we were very fortunate to be able to get this money from DOLA.
Well, you know, that's all good, but to take this to another level, we're talking about 80% capacity, 90% capacity. Sometimes we're over the capacity, and yet we're still got the door open for developers to come in here and demand more water. And we're at the limits of our capacities, even with the new facilities. And the reservoir or whatever is down by how much that we just discussed a few minutes ago in the other meeting. So, I mean, if we're in such dire straits as far as our capacity is concerned, and then how are we going? Why are we going to bring in new people to use more water? How will we explain that to our residents?
And to jump on that a little bit, Mike, on this new rate study, I'd like to see, does a new development help us with this water cause, or is it hurting us? By adding more taps, you think that it seems like maybe that would help the cause possibly. I'm not sure, but the statistical would be interesting to see, because Art brings up a valid point. I mean, and I think we all are concerned about the average everyday individual residential customer. I got a few calls, and you know, people want to water their grass, and it's hard for them to afford to water their grass. So I feel for them, and I think by this 5%, by not imposing the one that we had planned, 9 and 8, I think that's a start. We're putting it at 5%. So I think we are trying to help them a little bit.
As long as we don't push the rate that we're discounting this year and add it on to the one next year.
Yeah.
I'd like us to guarantee that we're not going to do that.
So Art, I had already been thinking about it. Me, if it was going to happen, you got to remember when this changes again in the future, I won't be here. But I would say the same thing. No, I don't think that any council should think about trying to recoup that in 1 year. You know, you recoup that over the next 5 to 6 years. You know, if you're going to do 8%, you make it 9%. No, you don't jump all of a sudden 8% to 14% the next year.
Because we all might be tired and feathered and ran out of here if we do things like that. So, you know.
Right. And what this new study and rate study will do will give us information, because, you know, we have improved, you know, I would say half of our infrastructure in this town, and I'm talking about water and sewer through the whole town. The I&I studies that they've done, we need to look at it again and get our production and usage, you know, and have somebody do a study and say, you know what, you know, Idaho Springs, you're actually not using. Everybody knows that our sewer rates are based on our water usage. Everybody knows that, right?
Right.
Right.
So if we fixed in our distribution system some of these leaks, and one we found that was pretty substantial over on Riverside, right, John Bordoni? We had that one over on Riverside. After we got that road complete, we found a pretty substantial leak over there. You know, this new rate study may came back and say, hey, man, y'all really did a good job by repairing your infrastructure, and you're actually producing less water than you were, because we had the math. We were producing water, but there was a gap in
you know, we produce this money, but when we go read the meters, it doesn't match up. So we knew we had leaks out there. So what this study will do with that also, well, look at, are we producing less water because more of it's going into the faucets and through the bathtubs instead of into the ground that nobody uses. So I think that's another, we may finally say, hey man, y'all are doing great. Y'all can, you know, if y'all can do 2% over the next 5 years, each year, then y'all stay on track and be able to pay for this thing.
Yeah, I'd like to add right here, one thing we've been talking about water quantity and picking on the state, although the state, I don't want to let them off the hook at all, but the water quality standards that are making everything more expensive, whether it's wastewater or domestic drinking water, that basically comes from the feds and the state passes it through. And so a whole other big discussion, perhaps even bigger, is the water quality standards that are tightening up all the time. And that's a whole other arena that we have to deal with that costs us a lot of money, a lot. And it's right up there with the construction in terms of operations. So let's not forget that entire aspect of it. Because
that's a good point, Bob. All I'm saying is that we have all the statistical information that we're basing our decisions on. Somehow we have to share it with the residents so they can see it, they can read it. And I'm sure a lot of them have absorbed it, understand it, and be more open to what we're trying to do or not do here.
Yeah, no, I have no problem with that. I wasn't even thinking of that. No, I
know that. I know that. But all, you know, the state keeps on coming up, and I think we need to demonstrate to the residents that, you know, we are forced to do some of these things. Because if it's just word of mouth, they're not going to believe us. I wouldn't if I were them, and I'm not too sure I do yet until I see it myself.
So the rate studies that we've done over the past several years is on our website. It's been there once we, you know, approve it and it's been presented to the council. It goes on our website, so anybody can pull those rate studies up and take a look at them and see. I think we even had didn't we put a little fact sheet together a couple of years ago that answered a lot of these questions, and we did a public engagement to talk about it.
But do you have the literature from the state that you're talking about demanding that we, you know, increase our capacities and new facilities and things like that? That's what we need to show them.
Okay,
you can show them these numbers all day. A lot of people don't understand numbers. They really don't. And I think you need to have some substantial things in writing from the agencies that are telling us to do these things. And then maybe they would understand it and maybe I'd vote for it.
Yeah, we'll put together a package that puts the state mandate telling us, you know, I think Michael Canalettic, I think's already got this because we've asked for this before. But we will get a little package together, a little, you know, a 2-pager that we'll talk about all this stuff, what we've done, you know, the rate studies that we did. Here's the letter and the document from the state in reference to it, why we had to do it, and pretty much explain how we went into starting looking for loans and grants to help us pay for it.
Well, I mean, what's the old saying? Education is power. If we educate the residents to what we're speaking of, we'll have less resistance.
Absolutely. We've got all the tools and documents to give the public.
Well, we gotta get it. I mean, if you give me the package, I can discuss it with people more easily than just pulling the words out of the air and showing them factually what we're talking about.
So I'll get John and Andy to pull something together for that. But in the meantime, like I said, all the studies are on the website. You can go and you can start reading through the studies and getting the facts of that study right there.
Yeah, but you see how many people get on these meetings with us, and a lot of them don't. Some of them don't have computers. They want to get on them. I mean, we're assuming everybody's highly technically advanced. A lot of people don't care to do it. They do it all day at work. They don't want to come home and play with it. So I don't want to assume anything as far as the residents are concerned. I'd like to educate them. If that's what we need to do, then assume that they're going to educate themselves.
Okay, and with that, you know, it's unfortunate that we're in this COVID thing. We're having to use computers.
I know.
In a perfect world, we would be able to let people come in yell and scream at us and, and talk to us and be at this work session face to face with us and in the crowd, but we're kind of stuck right now until.
Well, I think everybody understands that. That's not the problem.
So what I've told people in the past, get all your congressmen, the feds are making us do this. I think the feds should be paying for some of this stuff rather than paying Russia or China or something. Give the United States water and sewer infrastructure. That's my thought.
John. Absolutely.
Mike, I'm going to step off the audio video for a moment, but I'll be on audio. And also, I think John had his hand up, I recall.
John? Which John?
Oh, Kane.
I was just going to tell you that addition to the studies, there are PowerPoint presentations about the water and wastewater rates that are a little bit more digestible, to Art's point. There's also water quality reports dating back, as far as I've got them, which is 2016 at this point. But I know that if we need to get something else, we can get it there too. But those water quality reports also have other information, like you were talking about, Councilman Cacavelli.
But we have to talk in the residents' terms. We have to make it, and I'm not implying anybody's simple. We have to make it as simple and direct as we can. We can't complicate it with quality reports and 1 acre water supply. We got to make it so people understand what we're talking about. I'm including myself. Half the stuff I don't understand. I'm learning after a year, but we have to relate to people in their terms, not ours, so they understand where we're trying to go with this. And until we do that, you're going to be up against the wall on any of the projects we're looking at.
The PowerPoint presentation I was telling you about have some graphics, and I'd be happy to get those to Andy so you could take a look. And what I was trying to say, some of those graphics I think are a little bit more digestible for people.
Okay.
From like a normal understanding.
Okay.
And we're going to make up a bullet point sheet to very simply explain what we're faced up against and why we had to expand and why it fell on the residents and the businesses in this community to pay for. All right. Good discussion. Good discussion. Anything else on this topic? All right. One more topic tonight. Our chief of police recruitment update. And I'm gonna, if I get something wrong here, Andy, please help me out. Thursday evening at 6 o'clock, we will be scheduling a session. We'll call it a public engagement session, where we'll allow the candidates to come in and on Zoom and camera, and anybody that's with us, I do, what do we say, 6 to 7 minutes? Andy, did we put a time on it?
Yeah, the concept would be that each candidate would be asked to do about a 5-minute presentation, background about him or herself, why they're interested in the job, those sorts of things. Have it a little bit structured, not too structured, but allow each candidate to make a presentation so the public can become familiar with the candidates. And then we're gathering input from the public right now on questions that would be asked of each candidate. They'd be prepared in advance, and questions from the community. I've already gotten a few calls with suggestions, and those questions would be another 5-10 minutes for each candidate. So that was kind of the thought, unless council had any other desires out of that public meeting.
I'm sorry if I missed it, Andy, but did you say there's a time limit of when they give their presentation?
We were thinking about 5 minutes. That's not set in stone. That's part of the reason we wanted to bring this up briefly tonight, is just to see if you had any other thoughts, but we were thinking 5 minutes for the presentation and then maybe 6, 7, 8 minutes for the question and answer. Not to make it too long.
Are you going to do the same questions for each candidate and let them do a rotation and then change who's first each time?
I think we were thinking we would do each candidate one at a time. So you'd have candidate one, and then we could do that. That's an interesting thought, Scott. We were thinking about doing each candidate, answer the questions, go on to the next candidate, but we could certainly, we have the benefit with Zoom of being able to do that. I mean, we could do that in person as well, but that way no one has an advantage of hearing a question answered. So I think that's a good suggestion if that's the consensus.
Any other thoughts or comments? And then Saturday,
Or Friday, Mayor.
I'm sorry,
Friday.
Friday.
Yep. We were thinking about Saturday, but we ended up on Friday.
Saturday. So at what's the time on that, Andy?
We're asking all council members to be at City Hall, ready to go at 9 o'clock for the briefing, and then we'll get started with interviews at 9:30.
Also, at the same time, a panel of police chiefs and representatives from different counties will be doing what we were calling a professional interview interaction. So this will be going on simultaneously.
And that's up at the rec center. So they'll have plenty of space.
And then I guess we go into deliberation and come up with a consensus of who we'd like to offer the job to, number one, and our second in line, and just in case the number one decides that they don't want to accept our offer, and then we'll ask number two, and then of course, if it has to, if it got to a number three, council needs to be aware that KRW, if we don't find the right candidate, we've already talked to them about it, they will do a research. Not research, but a research. And it's not the same cost. There will be some costs associated with it, but it's not the full amount that we paid for the original search. So we already did that. And the reason I say that is, this is huge. When we hire any department head or anybody in our city, we want to make sure that we have the right person. And same thing with the planner search and the ORC for the sewer plant and water plant. We didn't feel that we had the qualifications or the person that we thought that could take those positions and run. And that's what I'm saying is, if we're not satisfied and happy with any of the three candidates, that we can say, let's restart and let's do another search and see if we get some better pull.
If that occurs, we would then be without a chief in place, correct?
This has already been discussed, and we do have our second command, Mark Hamschmidt, that has already agreed and told Chief Malanka that he would assume this position if that happened, and he would hold that position while we redid the search.
Okay.
So that's already been discussed, and Chief helped that conversation along. So, John,
They're going to be covert tested.
before they come in.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, now they're traveling. I don't know. So.
Well, I know one will be two will be maybe traveling by car. We'd only have one that's flying. Only one flying, Andy. Have we got?
He's flying in Wednesday.
But that's all. We're only one person coming in from really out of state. The gentleman from Wyoming. Yeah, that's out of state too. Out of state, maybe not for Weld County before too long.
Do we pay for relocation expenses and things like that for the person that's going to be hopefully selected? I mean, do we help them get here financially?
Of course, that will be negotiations on the hire.
Okay.
We'll see what they ask for and see if then it comes back to council if council's willing. We did give them a travel stipend. I don't remember how much it was. What did we land?
Maximum of 500.
Maximum of 500. So that will help them. And if there's any other thing, we could look at it. All right. Any questions on the new police chief hire and how we're going to go about doing that on Thursday and Friday? Very good. All right. It's 7 o'clock, 3 minutes. If you need to take a little break, do it. And we'll see you on about 3 minutes after 7. Thank you.
Hey, Jimmy? Are you, okay, they can't hear us, can they? How are you gonna vote? This is my group for you. Go for it. Where's my puppy dog? Oh, I got a good puppy dog. Name is Stella Bella. Oh, I love my Stella Bella. I'll take you out with my baby. We got a meeting. Oh, where's my
Start. And we're just waiting on.
Oh, man.
All right. We'll wait just another second on Jim. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get started here. It is 2:07. This is our regular scheduled meeting for Idaho Cold Springs City Council, February 8th. I think I already said it, but 7:07. And can I have a roll call, please?
Michael Hillman,
Here.
Scott Pennell,
Here.
Nick Harmon,
Here.
Bob Boland,
Here.
John Curtis,
Here.
Art Cacavelli,
Here.
Jim Clark.
Here.
All right, please stand with us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge the allegiance
Flag.
to the
Flag.
of the United
United
States,
States of
Of
America.
America.
and to the
To the
republic
flag
which it
which
stands,
stands
one
Nation.
nation,
One nation.
And
under
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible.
liberty and justice
for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. All right, we have an agenda in front of us tonight. Not aware of any amendments we need to make. So can I have a motion?
I'll move to approve the agenda for the February 8th, 2021 meeting.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion? All in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Hearing none. Does anybody feel they have a conflict of interest tonight? Jim, with your allied bill?
Sir.
Okay, so we'll do our normal 2 approvals for our bills tonight. All right, with that, we have minutes in our packet. Do I have a motion for approval of our last meeting's minutes?
Move to approve the minutes from February 25th, 2021.
Thank you, John, and do I have a second?
Second.
Scott, second. Discussion.
I think
With
they're
none,
fine.
You have something, Bob?
No, I had read through them. I think they're fine.
Okay, all right. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, we will move on to the bills. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the bills to February the 8th of 2021, except for Allied Towing.
Thank you, Chuck. Do I have a second?
I second.
Or second discussion? Does anybody have any questions we need to follow up on tonight?
Everyone in a row, I kept my mouth shut on this one, guys.
2 weeks in a row, everybody?
Three meetings in a row. That's a record for me.
Nobody has any questions about the bills? All right, can I have roll call, please, Diane?
Michael Hillman,
Yes.
Scott Pennell,
Yes.
Nick Harmon,
Yes.
Bob Boland,
Yes.
John Curtis,
Yes.
Art Cacavelli,
Yes.
Jim Clark.
Yes.
All right. Do I have a motion for Allied Towing's bill, please?
I would move to approve the Allied Towing bill to February 8th, 2021.
And do I have a second?
I second.
Discussion?
Keep that light, Jimmy.
What's that, bud?
$77, a cheap headlight and install.
I know it, right?
Roll call, please.
Michael Hillman,
Yes.
Scott Pennell,
Yes.
Chuck Harmon,
Yes.
Bob Boland,
Yes.
John Curtis,
Yes.
Art Cacavelli.
Yes.
All right, we will move down. Diane, do I have any unscheduled public comment tonight?
Yes, sir. Bruce Boynton.
All right. Hey, Bruce, how are you?
Hanging in there. How you?
Good. If you would state your name and where you reside, and I'm going to give you 3 minutes for public comment.
My name is Bruce Boynton. I have a business here in town, across the street from City Hall, basically. But at the last council meeting, I had brought up a slight parking issue or no parking sign issue here at the building, at my driveway and my access point and my loading zone, which was Colorado Revised Statutes Title 42, Vehicles and Traffic, 42-4-1204. And I was told that it would be at the next work session. And when I saw that it was not on the agenda for today, I called City Hall and was told that yes, it is not on the agenda. And if I want an explanation for that I have to talk to you or Andy. So I'm asking for my explanation, I guess, for now.
Is that the end of your comments? Bruce, is that the end of your comments?
No, we'll start there. I got a couple more minutes yet. I would like my explanation though, if possible. Unless, do you guys have a plan yet or what's going?
So this is not public discussion. This is public comment, but I will refer back to what I said at our last meeting when you addressed us. I believe I said that what this is part of a bigger picture, that this is something that was not going to be resolved in a day or a week. We have a parking plan that we're working on now that we have to implement. And at that point, that's when we will discuss this. And I believe my comments were that I would put it on a upcoming meeting. I don't recall referring to it as the next meeting. And the reason I didn't do that is because I knew we weren't going to be ready by this meeting to implement the new parking plan and accept that. And I will say, Bruce, that we have every intentions to put it on a work session when the time for all this to be discussed, and that we flush through some of this stuff that we're already working on. We have not forgot about you.
Well, up until that time, whenever it finally comes, am I allowed to use my loading zone as my driveway and loading zone as it's been used for the last 149 years?
I'm not going to discuss that with you, Bruce, because this is not the platform for it. Thank you so much for your comments, and we'll notify you when we have you on the work session, okay? All right.
And how long do you think that'll take till it shows up on a work session?
Thank you, Bruce. All right, let's move on. We will move down to, we're going to do down to ordinance first reading. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve ordinance number 4, series 2021, an ordinance repealing and reenacting Article 2 of Chapter 11 of the Idaho Springs Municipal Code concerning river outfitter permitting requirements.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Discussion.
By approving this, does this mean the rafting outfit's gonna use right there at 23rd Street, taking part of the park up again?
Well, so no, John, what this does is we had to redefine what parks meant in our city.
Okay.
They will still be using that 23rd Street. The big problem that was in question is all these years since rafting existed, well, not quite, because there was a couple of years that they were charging to put in, and the city had to reimburse the money. So that happened. But the put in on 103, the city gets nothing for anybody that puts in over there. However, we still provide police, we still clean it up, we still provide service around that area and other amenities throughout our community. I have been working on trying to get CDOT to deed that little piece of right of way over to us so we could start charging folks to put in to help offset the cost that we spend on it. 3 years, 2.5 years, actually longer than that. Diane could attest to that. I've been trying to do that. This is a way that we figured how we could recraft our words so that we could actually benefit and charge and help offset the cost of maintaining and public service that we have to provide for the rafting community.
Yeah, because I got complaints that they're tearing that up, in other places. So I didn't see anything about permit fee, just permits. But will that be on our permitting schedule? then?
That's on the fee schedule, Mr.
Yeah,
Carter.
okay.
Yes.
Jim, do you have a question?
So just looking at the sections here. So they particularly, or one company, didn't fail to complete the permit application form or be untruthful on it. It's just the simple section of the permit, correct?
Jim, I can't hear. Can anybody else hear Jim?
No, I'm having trouble hearing.
Yeah, we're having trouble hearing you, Jim.
I'm sorry, is this better?
That's a little better.
Yes.
Okay. The in like section 1120, denial or revocation of the permit, they didn't fail on this particularly. It's just part of the permit, correct?
Diane?
I think I'm reading you in that all this ordinance does is eliminates the current definition of city park. And it replaces it with section 5. If any river outfitter embarks or disembarks any client into or out of Clear Creek from any property owned or controlled by the city. So that would be 103 CRC Park. It just kind of eliminates that current definition of city park. And it holds the river outfitter accountable for any put in or take out.
Now, what we can't charge for is Clear Creek rafting, because their put in is their own property and they have an agreement with CDOT. So that would be different. That's not in control and ownership of the city. So that wouldn't be included.
Thank you, Diane.
You're welcome.
How do we regulate these put-ins, and we don't know if another company puts in, or?
Basically, it's by the honest policy. I can request at year end a trip report to make sure that, because they do list it by, put in and take out areas. And I can review that. I've questioned a few over the years, and this park definition is what they always come back out at me, and I've fought, tooth and nail, and I think that this clears it up.
Thank you, Diane.
You're welcome.
Any other question? Yeah, it's always been are these folks really reporting the right numbers? That'll always be a question. We could talk about putting counters. There's actually counters we can put along the river, or cameras that take snapshots, and we know what company it is. I don't know that I want to get that far into it. Hopefully the rafting companies will be honest with us. This is their community too. Without us, they couldn't be putting in. So they should be, wanting to pay their way, and hopefully they'll abide to that.
What's our liability at these put in and take out points? Does Carmen address those?
Our liability for them putting in and taking out?
Yeah, I mean, if something happened unexpected.
Nothing.
Well,
Sure.
they carry insurance, but we don't.
Well, our overall liability covers basically anything that happens on our property.
Right.
Yeah, so it's just the standard. I mean, if something happened where we didn't perform and maintain upkeep and someone got injured, just thinking.
We're not making any promises.
Yeah.
But we have liability insurance for that type of thing, right?
Right, through CIRSA.
Yeah. CIRSA's insurance is something we would all die for, personally.
I don't think charging a fee is going to add any more liability to what we already incur.
No. Like I said, this is a way for us to receive more money. These fees could pay for another officer. As many people that put in 103, this is going to be and it takes police, it takes EMS, fire. Somebody gets in that river, you got the fire authority out there, you got the sheriff's department out there. We pay into the fire and sheriff's department. You got our guys out there. So there is a cost when things happen. And I think this is a good way to get more share on the cost. I think we've been cutting ourselves short on this for quite some time.
Absolutely.
got a question of Diane. I know that Clear Creek Rafting is a city business, but I'm wondering how many others actually have business licenses because their headquarters is in the city.
I would say, Bob, approximately 5 or 6 other ones.
That many? I'm surprised. Okay.
That's approximate.
Yeah. Okay. I know. That's good. That's more than I thought.
Do we currently have on the average of 16 on the water roughly annually? And then, but only
Roughly-
go
Roughly
ahead.
10 to 11.
10 to 11, but
Mhm.
only 6 are contribute to revenues back to Idaho Springs.
Well, they have a city business license.
Okay. Okay.
We'll have to look at, I can think of another rafting company here in town that I'm not sure if they have to use city property to cross over to access the river. So we'll have to check into that one. All right, any more discussion? Can I have roll call?
Michael Hillman,
Yes.
Scott Pennell,
Yes.
Chuck Harmon,
Yes.
Bob Boland,
Yes.
John Curtis,
Yes.
Art Cacavelli,
Yes.
Jim Clark.
Yes.
All right, we're going to move down to our ordinance second reading. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve ordinance number 1, series 2021, an ordinance amending rates and charges for water and sewer services and making conforming amendments to the Idaho Springs Municipal Code.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All right, discussion.
Yeah, I know we had a good discussion about this already, but I think taking personal responsibility, we all need to consider the effects this has on our residents and just always think of that in the future.
Yeah,
Scott,
absolutely.
Chuck, any other comments? One thing I would say, and that we said in the work session is, this is the time we will start bringing somebody on to do another rate study for us, to have some updated and new information that may be telling in a different way. So, and that is a due diligence and responsibility of this council for our citizens and our businesses. One thing that I didn't say earlier that I wanted to make sure that I did say is, when we did the first rate study, I said, we need to do another one to make sure that the businesses are paying their way. We felt that the residents may be, in fact, subsidizing our businesses. That promise was made by me and council, and we made it happen. And yes, we did find out that that the businesses were kind of getting carried by the residents a little bit. And we made that adjustment with that rate study to ensure that the citizens were not paying in and helping business operations and profits.
Another thing I was gonna let council aware of, and I'm not sure if everyone knows this, but during the pandemic, I know that I made a call to Wonder and talk to her about some of this, and the late fees, we've been waiving late fees to citizens who've had a hard time paying. So I know that's an effort by the city to try to help people.
All right, thank you.
And the rate study will show what we have in the bank and where we're at, so, keep our balanced budget more
Yep.
without going out of hand by getting too much money.
Right. And that's the other, yeah, we will make sure that all that is included. Yeah, we just want to make sure that the community is comfortable, like Art said, well informed of why we have to do this, having something that says, and doing our due diligence by reworking it and looking at, current flows and current cost of production and see if there's any way that we could come down. I'd love to think that, over the next several years that, y'all can do this with 3% or 2%. That's my hope. I've got my fingers crossed. So, okay, any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Michael Hillman,
Yes.
Scott Pennell,
Yes.
Chuck Harmon,
Yes.
Bob Boland,
Yes.
John Curtis,
Yes.
Art Cacavelli,
No.
Jim Clark.
Oh,
All right, motion passes. We will move down to our department heads reports. Andy? What do you have for us?
Mayor and council, you have my report with no request for action this evening.
All right,
May I ask Andy a question, please?
absolutely.
Andy, on the paragraph from second up from the bottom, I put my glasses in another room. I can't find them. I think it's the Gold Rush Center, second and third floor. Can you tell me what that building is zoned for now?
Oh, boy. Diane, do you know?
What building is it?
The Gold Rush Center. I can look it up here real quick.
It's
I believe it's-
C-
I mean, they want to put apartments. Is that what, I don't have my glasses on right now. They want to put apartments on the second and third floor?
I think it's C1, isn't it?
Yes, it's C1.
C1.
Uh-huh. I don't think that they're, so Art, you know which property they're talking about?
No.
I think it's the one-story building to the east.
Yeah. You got the two-story building, if you're facing it, you got the two-story building to the east.
Right.
The story building to the west.
Yeah.
Flip that around. I'm sorry. The two-story building, if you're facing it, is to the west. The one story to the right is
Right.
what's going to do this add-on. And my understanding from the developer said it's only one more story on top of it.
Yeah, one.
It's only going up one.
Okay, they want to put it up for housing. Is there housing in there now?
No,
Okay, so they have to get it rezoned?
not
It
rezoned.
allows mixed use.
They would just have to change it to a mix. Yeah. Just an additional use. Change it.
Does that take approval from us or not?
Yes.
It does. Okay.
Well, actually, because of this is actually, it's considered one building. So this is actually considered an addition to that building. So
Yeah.
that's the reason it's being handled administratively under our code.
Yeah, they don't need to come to us, I'm sure.
Not for this, because it is considered an addition to the goal. This addition was planned quite a while ago. I mean, 30, 40 years ago. So they're just now deciding to build out the other wing, the east wing of this building.
Okay. Thank you.
And we've already talked to legal about that because it sounds like, I would say that they're actually going to add an additional use to that building because they're going to have retail. Are they still going to have retail on the bottom?
That they are considering maintaining the retail on the first level and the housing would be on the second level.
Yeah, I think we need to talk to Carmen about that because it seems like if they're going to use a different use or add a use to it from just retail, that we would have to go through a process. That's for legal. That's why we have Carmen. So we will check that out, Art, and get back with you on that. For
All
sure.
right, thank you.
Are they gonna have enough parking if
They're-
they add houses?
They've been talking and, they've got that upper landing. I don't know a whole lot about it. I just, I was actually showing the developer another piece of property and he told me what he was going to do, but I don't know much more than that about it. Right. Any other questions? All right. Thanks, Andy. Diane, City Clerk.
Mayor and council, you have my staff report for your review with no request for action.
All right. Thank you, Diane. Real quick, would you give us an update on, do you know about the gift card plan and what we've got? Do you have that information that you could share?
I think I heard Wonder say that there's approximately $35,000 left.
Okay, I think that's what she said this morning. So that, John's got the number. He's raising his hand.
You
I
are
believe it's 24,000. Is that wrong, Dan?
I think that sounds about right.
So if anybody, we still have that money that if you know anybody in the community that's needing some help with some groceries, please send them over and let them fill out a really simple application and get some help to get some food into the house.
The applications are quite steady, probably average 5 to 6 a day that we process and give out.
Right. Thanks, Diane. Anybody else have any questions for Diane?
Did everybody get the sales tax information?
Oh, yeah.
Great.
Yes, very good.
Yeah. Nice to see up again. Everybody's still scratching their heads and then we'll give a little update under mayor and council in a minute. But let's move down to PD. Chief. You're on mute. You're on mute, chief.
Sorry, I was reading the report and I'd gone away from the field there. So I'll refer you, Mayor and Council, to my report. I do have 2 requests for action. The first is I'm requesting that we renew our contract with Axon, who provides our body worn cameras and the software. This is going to include 2 new licenses and increased data storage. They're actually giving us quite a bit. They're giving us additional cameras. Our total savings is going to be just shy of $15,000. And the total contract is for $44,757. But Axon is going to allow us to make 5 installments. The first installment for this year is $4,941.90, meaning that the next 4 will be just shy of $10,000 each. I can tell you that I thank this council and the former council because one of the first things that I requested and received was permission to implement a body worn camera program. And this has saved us a great deal of angst. It's provided us excellent evidence for court. And much of the time after seeing the videos, a lot of defendants prefer plea bargaining to trial. It also helps us evaluate the performance of the officers. And when there is a grievance against them, it allows us to evaluate that contact as to whether the officer did make a mistake or perhaps the person they contacted due to high stress or temper may have not had the same perception as the camera. Anyway, I think it's an excellent investment. It's a great protection for the department. And I'm requesting approval of that $4,941.90 and overall approval of the contract.
Do you need a line item on these?
Yeah, I'm sorry, we do have a line item. It's the line item for contracts. So we do have a line item and we are budgeted for it.
Andy, do you have that line item real quick? You got the budget handy?
I'm gonna go back to bills and pull that up real quick.
Right, while you're doing that, any other questions before we make a motion for chief?
Hey, Chief, I'm just curious. Do you see these contracts getting cheaper?
Well, this is what we did. Of course, you know, their costs go up as well. But the reason we got the $15,000 savings is because we could have renewed this contract 2.5 years ago and gotten all the new equipment. But what we did was because everything was still working, we forewent renewing the contract 2.5 years ago. So yeah, everything goes up. But you know, I think by not renewing the contract and getting the new equipment 2.5 years ago, we did save quite a bit.
Yeah, I was curious because, you know, maybe not. I realize this is the next item.
Yeah.
Some additional laptops, but I'm only, we're also familiar with laptops, or most of us are, that you keep getting more powerful laptops and cheaper, you know, prices. I don't know if you see this reflected with police equipment. It seems like maybe some of this technology is not going down in price.
Well, we have certain problems. I mean, I'll be honest with you, there are other vendors, Panasonic Toughbooks, HP has a computer out, but you know, we work exclusively with Common Knowledge and they deal exclusively in Dell. So if we were to go out and buy, you know, a different, you know, go to Panasonic and say, hey, what can you give us for your Toughbooks? We might find ourselves with cheaper computers, but have to get a separate contract for service.
Yeah.
You know, I can't find anything in there that has that line item. Andy, can you pull up the? Okay.
We already have it. John Curtis, it's in the chat. If you want to refer to that line item, if you want to make the motion. You see it, John?
Yep. Well, yeah,
All right.
it
Go ahead.
was up there a minute ago. Okay, there we go. I move, sheesh. Where's this at?
Under PD, John, A.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Is it for the 44 or?
The 44, yeah.
Okay, there it is. Move to authorize Chief Malaka to sign a contract with Axon for $44,757 for body worn cameras, 2 licenses and data storage.
I do have a second.
A second.
Yeah, line item 10, 30, 5105.
Oh, thank you, John. Do I have a second?
I second.
All right, second discussion. Roll call.
Michael Hillman,
Yes.
Scott Pennell,
Yes.
Chuck Harmon,
Yes.
Bob Boland,
Yes.
John Curtis,
Yes.
Art Cacavelli,
Yes.
Jim Clark.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. We'll move down to the second action item. Under-
Okay, and Andy, if you would, you're gonna have to find that,
There you go.
yeah, for me again on this one. So
Is it-
this is a little different. We're not budgeted for these computers, but after we finished our budgeting process, I was informed by Common Knowledge that our laptop computers that are issued to the officers and in their cars are obsolete, and that they will no longer service them, and that they're susceptible to hacking. So we asked about replacing the computers, and to get 8 replacement laptop computers. The total cost is going to be $24,560. I discussed this with Andy, and he at the time was of the belief we could find the money in capital purchases. So I'm asking the council to approve the purchase of these new laptops. I can't overemphasize the importance of the laptops and the fact that each officer has their own, because that is their office and their file cabinet, and where they store all their data. We tried in bigger departments signing out laptops, but it created problems trying to track down information or reports that didn't download. Plus it allows them to personalize information. So our request is that the council approve the purchase of the laptops for a cost of $24,560. I would like to point out that these laptops are 7 and 8 years old, the ones we have currently. So I think the longevity of the computers makes it worth the investment.
All right. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve $24,560 to Common Knowledge Technologies to replace 8 laptops with assign each vehicle to an officer. Line item 21006026.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All right, or second. Last chance for discussion.
Yeah, John Kane, did you have something to add? I saw you had your hand up.
I happen to think that we can pay for some of this through the CARES 2.0 funding we got through the reserve fund. We did not spend the money that I had anticipated on the city council upgrade. And I believe we do have some remainder there that could be used for this purpose to help offset some.
Very good to know. Very good.
Okay, I'm sorry, but how would this possibly be related to COVID in the CARES Act?
It's already been approved. It's building capacity of staff. We have to have the capacity to operate and run the city. New laptops are a very commonly accepted task on uniformly throughout the country. So it was already approved by DOLA.
Well,
I would think, could you ballpark?
I believe we asked for
What do you think?
22,000. We don't have enough for everything. It was like 22,000, I think, in that task, and I believe we have 7,000 or 8,000 left. We have to look at it for sure. But part of this is about building capacity and making sure that we have the ability to interact with residents digitally or virtually or whatever it may be. I think even just having the ability to attend virtual meetings with a laptop is something that might be, part of that thing. And of course, Andy can look at it and see if it fits, but I just wanted to say that there is money there.
Oh, that's great.
So what I would suggest is we approve this up to the 24,60. And if we do get a grant or can use CARES money, then we're approved up to that amount and we can just pay less. So I would need a remotion. John, somebody want to make the motion with the correction?
I would move to approve 24,000 up to $24,560 to Common Knowledge Technology to replace 8 laptops, which are assigned to each vehicle and officer for Police Department Equipment 21-00-6026, with the understanding that if funds are available, we utilize CARES Act money first.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All right, motion and second. Any more discussion? Can I have roll call, please?
Michael Hillman,
Yes.
Scott Pennell,
Yes.
Chuck Harmon,
Yes.
Bob Boland,
Yes.
John Curtis,
Yes.
Art Cacavelli,
Yes.
Jim Clark.
Yes.
All right, we will move down to John Bordoni, Public Works, Streets, Parks, Public Works, Water, Wastewater. John?
Mayor and council, you have my staff report before you, and I have no request for action.
All right, any discussion or questions for John? All right,
How long before the phase 1, the first train will be ready?
They just poured the floor on Friday, and they've started to install a lot of the piping and troughs in there, so you're probably still looking at another month at least before it's ready to go. Yes, sir.
John, two things. First, thank you for fixing that sign at Minor and Colorado Boulevard. Second, what are they doing at the 241 eastbound exit ramp? What's going on there?
They're trying to improve the sight line as you come off of that ramp. They're
So you
making
don't die.
have to keep a little bit more to the right of that ramp. The same
Yeah,
thing
right.
that they did on the 240 eastbound on and off ramps, or westbound on ramp and
Gotcha.
off ramp.
Yeah, 241 is death trap, dude.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much that'll help, but it's some.
Well, that's great. That's awesome news. I'm glad that that's what that construction is going for sure. Thank you, John.
Sure.
anything else for John? All right, to all the department heads, y'all are doing an excellent job out there. Thank you for all that you do and your crews do, and making sure that things, even with a, not a big workforce to help you, you get the things done that need to be done. So we really appreciate that from all of our department heads. All right, just real quick, a couple of things. We did speak with DOLA about our grant that we did not get to strategize and come up with a plan moving forward. I think we have some ideas in place that we can, we were told that we should go after a tier 1 grant and see what we can get out of that so we can start the public works and then come back in August. That way we could do this in 2 grants, kind of like we did the 2 projects with a wastewater plant. This will be able to give us an opportunity to go after 2 different grant cycles very close together to hopefully get both of those grants. And that would put us real close to the amount of money that we needed to do the public works building. So that was very exciting. DOLA reached out to us and said, hey, they really want us to see us get this done. They were disappointed that we could only get a few $100,000 to do the project. But I think they also appreciated and respected our decision not to take that money and try to figure out how we were going to do the project. So there was a lot of, they respected our decision. So that helps us out as well. We are going to go ahead and what we wanted to do is kind of time it out of our police hire. We will next week, maybe Andy's already done it. Go ahead and advertise for our planner and our ORC for our wastewater and water plants. So we're going to be doing that. If you haven't been keeping up with it, you know, if you didn't hear it today, you probably don't know what's going to go on tomorrow. The county and Clear Creek, we had a special meeting this morning with them. We are under the hopefuls by Friday or Saturday that we will go back to a yellow status in our community. What that says for us is restaurants can go from 25% capacity to 50% capacity. And moving into this holiday weekend, President's Day and Valentine's Day, normally this is a really busy ski weekend. From what I've heard, it's one of the busiest of the year. So there's going to be a lot of people coming up through here, and that's going to be a really good advantage to our businesses, especially the restaurants that have been running on 25%. So that's good news. CDOT, Andy and I will have a meeting with CDOT, and John will join us as well to talk about completion time, next steps with where they are at with the project in our parking lots, and to express that with the delay and them running a few months behind plus, I am going to suggest and push on CDOT to not only repave our 2 main lots, but also pave the lot behind Tommyknockers so that we could strike that as well, so that we can really get a good idea how many parking places are there. And since they will be formulated and laid out, I'm probably going to guess we'll gain 5 or 6 parking places. So that's something that I will be doing with CDOT. We've also been talking about the transformation from winter business downtown into our summer business. I would say 90% of the businesses downtown support closing the road down again and make it a Idaho Springs marketplace. So we're working towards that. And the date that I think it's the 2nd week of May is when we're going to start pulling barriers and getting everything out there and start transforming into our marketplace for summer. I think that's all I've got for updates. Any questions?
I have a question. It's probably for John Bordoni, unrelated to anything we've talked about so far, but there's some excavation going on the hill that we can see from our house up on the top of the waterfall area. And I don't know if that's happening on city land or private land up there. And somebody's been digging around up there for 2 or 3 weeks, it seems.
That is part of.
Bob, just to let you know, this is, I believe you're talking about the same thing that Art has inquired about. Go ahead, John.
That is part of XL replacing that natural gas line to those 2 houses at the top of Pine Slope.
Okay.
The old church and the other house.
Well, they dug a lot of little holes all over.
Yes.
Okay, maybe they're hunting for the gas line again.
Well, they've hunted for all of our utilities, and they obviously have run into a lot of rocks trying to dig up through there. So
I would say so. They're struggling.
yes, they are.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bob, speaking of excavators, I gotta say, that was the biggest excavator I've ever seen in my life that you had there at your price.
Yes.
Holy moly.
Go out of state to find that thing.
Man,
Didn't even have one in Colorado.
that was incredible.
All right, good meeting, everybody. With that, it is 7:50 and we're going
Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
Did you say that the marketplace, when we do that, or is that going to come before council if we decide, or is that a decision that's already made?
Sure, we should talk about that right now, because if council doesn't want to do that, then I need to start talking to the businesses downtown that the city won't approve of closing the street down.
Do we want to do it right now, or do we want to do it closer to the time? Or
The sooner that we get this out, if I've got people that are opposing doing that again, then I need to start talking about it tomorrow. I mean, literally, I need to start talking to these business owners downtown.
But
Anybody
you got a 100% consensus,
from
business owners, or?
everyone that's been, no, we haven't gone door to door, but I can tell you that sometimes we have over 25, 30 business owners on our call on Monday, and everybody supports it. I don't think we've had one person say, let's not do this.
Yeah, I've gotten positive calls from merchants downtown.
Well, I feel it was a positive thing.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if, go ahead,
I
Scott.
just wondered if it was coming before council or if it was just a decision that's already made.
Well, I think I would love for council to support and have input on it, and things that you might want to see that we should do different that might make it better, or should we reconsider? The way that I feel about it, I've been working on moving into closing down the street for many years, and I could not get the business owners to support it because of the loss of parking. I don't have one business owner that cares about the parking on Minor Street right now. Even if we don't have all of our parking back, they want to have the pedestrian marketplace again. They like the festive of it. There were bands that were coming out and playing in the park. There was a band setting up across from Tommy Knockers playing in the evening times. And, as far as the business community, they wanted it 100%. I have not heard one person say that this is not good for us. We don't want to do it.
I would say, though, I sure would like to get a push to get our parking back if we do that, though. I'd like to see those back lots. You estimate they'll be back in order by then?
Oh, yeah.
By
yeah.
June,
Those
by
are gonna
May?
be in place in the, well, I'd have to pull the text from Jeff up, but, he's saying the end of the month. I think it's going to be maybe the second week of March. If they can have those parking lots dug out, repaved, stripe by the second week of March, because that's really when our spring break kicks in at that second week of March. And that would be golden. And we, like I said, we have a meeting with them to get this thing done, and find out the schedule on it when they're supposed to be out of there.
I'd like to see some lights maybe strung out across the street, give it a more festive look like you see downtown at Larimer Square. They have those lights. Gives you an evening festival.
Problem is we had a lot of business owners because one, we did the Tivoli lighting, and that didn't adhere to the old bricks and building material from so old. Actually, they were chipping and pulling, the lights were up there and they were glued on, or however they put them on there. And because the wind was so high, it would pull them. One, they spaced out, it would rip off little pieces of the building.
I think, Art, you're talking about lights across the street. Is that correct?
Right.
Yeah, I was talking about along your building profile.
No, I'm talking about over the street from one side to the other. Maybe at one end of where the the restaurant starts to the other end. Just a thought. I mean, I've seen it in other towns and it really looks nice.
Here's the other problem: is some of our buildings on the north side and the south side are not the same height. And I believe when I went out there and looked at it, this was several years ago, but we would have a problem of getting it up high enough for trucks to come down the road. Now, if we're closed down, we still leave the middle open for deliveries. So we've looked at that. We can look at it again. Bob came up with some ideas of getting some stands and mounting, flower pots with stands on them and trying to do it that way. So we can definitely look into it, because I think that would be an advantage and be really cool for downtown.
There are a lot of models out there that actually don't involve the buildings. And in fact, interestingly enough, that Larimer Street is one of them, that they have their own structure to hold up the lights. So yeah, I'm personally really excited about it. And I think to my point of view, it takes a whole lot of street level and turns it into retail.
Yep.
Can't lose. I hope.
Let's see. One last thing is I have reached out to the gal that was going to help me get the in the blocks decorative barricades done. So we are reaching out to her, and hopefully we can have these things done by the time we shut the streets down, so we don't look like a construction zone. I really want to look, a prettier than, a bunch of barricades that
Yeah.
on the end of the, on the end of the street. So we're going to get those going as well. All right, open it up. Anything else from council that we want to discuss real quick? All right, 7:56, and I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Thanks, everybody. It's good work.
Thank you, everyone. Be safe.
Buddy.
Not all.
Good
Good night. Good night.